Hi, it's Lau. I want to go over and share something with you that probably will help people to understand this concept of what's the primordial fabric that yin and yang sort of represent. Part of the problem with people in yin and yang is that they think it means hot, cold, and sort of the existence of duality. But in fact, this is not about duality. This goes beyond duality. This goes to the idea of reality, which has no duality. It is the paradox that is constantly reconciled of this and that being what we call not two. And so I want to go over this idea of what this represents. Some people think it's masculine, feminine, hot and cold, and all of those can be true. We've kind of discussed this a bit, that nothing is yang, nothing is yin in and of itself. It's always compared to what. But if you look at this in a bigger macroscopic level, what this can represent, and this is a very important concept that I wanted to convey, because I want to convey how we use this in a practical sense, that this represents order, and this will represent chaos. Order and chaos are fundamentally the two primal substances that make up our existence as a reality, right? I'm not talking about material substance. I mean in terms of our consciousness. When we understand something, when we understand the process of something, we instantly have order. When we don't understand something, when we don't have an awareness of something, then we are in what we call chaos. I'll give you an example to understand. Let's say that I have a partner and we've been partners for 25 years in business, and I trust him with my life, everything's going great. He walks into the room and says to me, the accountant walks into the room and says to me, "Hey, have you seen your partner?" And I say, "No, I'm sure he's off doing something, but what's going on?" He says, "Well, no one's seen him in 3 days. I've looked around for him and all, went by his apartment, it's empty, and our bank account is completely drained." In that moment, I thought I knew where we were. I thought we were in order. But then, in a split second, what I find is that I'm not really here. I'm actually here. And that's where people start to go into this psychological and a physiological response to panic, fear, worry, anxieties, depressions, all of these things, because if you thought you knew where you were and you really weren't there, what does that say about your ability to perceive your environment, right? This goes back to our simian nature in evolutionary times, where if you didn't know where you were susceptible to becoming prey for predators. And so you had to have a really good understanding where you were in a hypervigilance. As humans, we kind of think, well, we've gone beyond all that, but not true in the least. There's always a hypervigilance. If you think I'm wrong, go to a cookout or a family gathering at a local public park and watch people coming up into your environment, but then turn around and let some stranger come into your environment that you don't know, and let them start walking towards the little kids, and watch how all the adults become hyper aware, hyper vigilant. You'll see even people starting to shake a little, and yet the reason why that is even though you have no reason to believe something untoward's going to happen, that's still part of our biology that we're just not going to get rid of, and it's not going to get rid of anytime soon, even if it does somehow get bred out of us. So having the understanding of order and chaos is a very important concept, and I'm going to tell you why. When you think you know how things are going to go, for example, if I do steps A, B, C, and D, then I'll get step E. This is my goal, whatever you design it to be. And so as you start progressing through these steps, if it works, you feel like your life is in order and you feel good and everything's great. But when you feel like, I try everything, and I've had people come to me as clients, as students, they go, "Lau, I try everything and nothing works." No, you've tried everything that doesn't work, maybe, but you're trying everything but what's necessary. Most people have the hardest time of being effective because they don't actually know what these stand for. They just don't know. And that's a big problem. And this is where people of all social statuses and economic status and all, this is one of the biggest things that contributes to this. It's not because they're stupid. It's they just don't understand these processes and the language they have to understand these processes. This is why things like Harvard's and Stanford's and Yale's seem to be like, oh, you need to go there and then you'll be successful. Well, there's no guarantee. There's plenty of derelicts with a degree from Yale necessarily. But why it tends to be a place that you would go to be successful is it's established a reputation. We talked about reputation in a different video, but it establishes a reputation of being able to accurately help you understand these steps to get here. That's why it has the reputation for putting out successful people, because successful people are people who can reach into the chaos and bring order. Now, when your language increases for how things work, and many people try things, and they seem to fail, and they say, I just can't seem to get anything to work. Nothing seems to work. Wrong. It's not that what you're doing is bad, or you're stupid, or anything like that. It's you don't have the language for how this process works. And when your language for the process doesn't work, the language that you do have is all you're going to be able to call on to describe it. And if it's inadequate, then your awareness or your psychology is going to say, you can't do it, you're ineffective, you're no good, you're bad. You see? Because you aren't accomplishing what you want. But that doesn't mean that any of those things, there's no viability on you as a person based on it. It's just the viability of the language you're using, because you can only use the language you've been exposed to. Many people, when they go through school, they don't learn the things that school tries to teach them, and even if they did learn it, they wouldn't retain it, because we only retain maybe 10%, they say. However, one of the biggest things is where teachers are really great, and they say, oh, I remember my 4th grade teacher, he was amazing. The reason why is because they gave you language that was useful. And they said it in a language you could understand it and apply. Our biggest problem as people is not the ability to understand things, but can you understand it and then apply it? Application is always the thing that inhibits our species of anything. When your language adequately describes this, then your awareness grows. Now, when you attempt something, and during that attempt, maybe the process teaches you that's not how this works. That's not how it goes. If you can expand your language, this will say, oh, I didn't know how that worked. I didn't know you need to do that step first. I didn't know that this needed to happen next. And your awareness begins to expand. This is a very important thing, because the expansion of language expands your awareness of how the world works, how things work around you. We have to fundamentally, sort of understand and accept that we don't really understand how the world or the universe works. We just don't. 96% of the entirety of the universe is considered dark. We just don't know. And that 4%, even at 4%, we have to admit, now we don't understand that very much. We have tendencies, we have patterns that we can use and apply, like physics and geology and biology. There are things that we can pattern, and they seem to work, but they don't work all the time without exception either. And that really is what gives us such uncertainty in our life. But when we start to gain understandings and power into how things work, we become empowered and our awareness grows. When our awareness grows, then it goes here to our biology, and we can start to restrain it, because our biology, because we have a hominid, because we have a simian nature deep within our mesobrain and our reptilian or our complex brain, then we start to get anxieties and, well, what if this doesn't work, and I really need this to work, and I really want it to work, and once we understand the process, we can start to restrain the biology. Doesn't mean we won't feel it, of course we will. We understand that's just our insecurity right now, and insecurities will come. If you want to inoculate or vaccinate yourself against fear and insecurity like that, or anxiety, you need to gain competence, you need to gain skill. Once you start to understand this process, your awareness grows, and you can go, no, I'm a little nervous, but this should work. And you've got enough track record of getting to here, then that once you've restrained the biology, your insecurities, and you keep going forward, the fear doesn't stop you, eventually that leads to skill. And once you gain the skill, now you're going to gain new language. And that new language will create and expand your awareness, which will help you to restrain your biology, which will give you more skill. And it becomes this loop here until you can begin to live right here in this particular place where you need the chaos. Because if you constantly live in order, you may think you're going to feel peaceful and calm and I know what's happening and everything's good. Wrong. It's not going to be that way at all. And the reason why it's not going to be that way is because there's no growth in that. You cannot tell something to somebody who knows. But you have to capitulate right now that you don't know anything. You have tendencies, you have knowledge about some things, but those things are not enough. So you must go into the chaos to learn new things, and then come back in the order to process and unpack and assimilate those things that you learn, and then go back into the chaos and come back. The yin and yang, for example, of growth is pain and opportunity. The pain is when something new comes, we automatically start to get anxious. That's part of our biology. That's part of our physiology. We get nervous in unknown things. Doubt me? Go to the night before a job interview, the night before SATs, the night before anything that's going to happen that's going to impact a good deal of your life, and tell me you're not nervous. Of course you're nervous. Why? Because the unknown, this whole chaos of anything could happen, and that will have implications on my life, is going to create a physiological response. But if you prepare yourself and you do your best, even though you're nervous, you can walk in there somewhat prepared. I've taken board exams for Chinese medicine where I walked out of there and I'm like, well, I know I'm taking that again. And then it said I passed. I was like, how the heck did that happen? And it does happen. Did I feel all the butterflies in there? Yes, and I've done Chinese medicine for years and years and years already at that point. But it doesn't matter. Every night before, there's going to be a physiological response. But if you can focus, if you can correct and constantly expand and make your language more precise, more accurate, then you're going to gain a skill, right? That's how it works. Cirque du Soleil people with all their skill. They've controlled their physiology by creating an awareness of how the body works and how the physics of it work, and they have a language that empowers them versus, they don't say things like, wow, don't fall. They say things like, do great. See, a way to approach the situation. You know, they aren't looking at how they can get hurt, they're looking at how they can shine. They change this, and how you affect this particular infinity loop creates exponential growth or keeps you down to size. Because if your language stays poor and you keep mislabeling each of these steps, this is never going to be achieved, and you're going to say, my life sucks and my life is terrible, nobody loves me, and I can't do anything right. And it has nothing to do with you. It's not about you. It's about this and this increasing so that this can be kept in a optimal state so that this can grow. Language and skill are the two things that will take you from here to here in your life, every day and twice on Sunday. Okay? If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You can share this. You can leave comments and hit like. You can email me always offline at lau@fourdragonschool.com. Until then, see you next time.